trying to leave the meeting.
Good morning. Whether you're in the sanctuary or on Facebook Live or on Zoom, you are welcome here. No matter who you are, wherever you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. Even if you're a non-human, you are welcome here. We've got a little video clip to prove it. Grant's put up a little trail camera in the woods back here. Check out our neighbors. Let's just take a moment before our prelude, just to ground ourselves in our bodies as we worship. We have evolved, we as these humans, with these strange protuberances, ears that stick out, nose and lips. We have evolved for connection, for vulnerability. We've evolved for love. And so we give gratitude for these gifts. And I invite you to take a few breaths in and out, and also open and close your hands. If you can raise up your hands. Open on the slow in-breath and close on the out-breath. In and out. One more. In and out. May it be so. We receive our prelude in silent gratitude this morning.
morning. Good morning. When I look around, I see shadows of sadness, families who've lost loved ones, people in prison, people who are isolated and feel on their own.
In the face. All together. When I look around, I see shadows of grief, people dreading the holidays because of painful memories, or because they don't want to spend another Christmas alone.
In the face of sadness, we light a candle of joy.
In the face of grief, in the face of loss, we light a candle of joy.
May the light from this candle overwhelm the world. May the light from this candle say to all that God's joy is coming on earth as it is already in heaven.
Friends, be not afraid. God's joy is at hand. Amen.
Be not afraid. It's the watchword of the season. We rise as we are able in body and or spirit for our opening song, Come Along, Expected Jesus.
Is there any choir members that would like to join us? Please come up.
Turn to page 122 in your books because not all of the words are in the bulletin. The end of the second verse is missing.
Seated. We come to our time of celebrations and prayer concerns. I invite those on Zoom to put in the chat what it is you have on your hearts today, and in just a moment we'll invite those of you in the sanctuary to share briefly. We celebrate, if I might, just gratitude to see Gail with us today, and Nancy in the sanctuary rather than on Zoom. Siham, it's a delight to have you with us. Some concerns. Izzy is grieving a colleague, Pat, who died, a colleague at Navant this week. Ryan has lost his mom in the past week and a half, so we hold Ryan and his entire family in our prayers. Bill, who had gamma knife surgery this past week, we'll hear from in a little bit, but is recovering and monitoring lungs, hoping for health. Pray for Diane S. and Jim W., Margaret and Ken R., Ann M., Pauline J. For Andrea, who had back surgery on Friday, and for her birth mom, who is taken to Tennessee for health concerns. For those who face substance use disorder, mental health issues, loneliness, grief this time of year, we hold all in our prayers. Tom M. says, glad to have animal neighbors join us. Beautiful music. Beth asks for concerns for our nation's political health. What do you lift up, those of you in the sanctuary? Yeah, Marion.
For Kate, the woman from Texas, who's dealing with one of the most horrible situations that a woman can face. Yes.
Kate in Texas.
Yes.
Carl.
My son Lee, who is in treatment.
For Lee in treatment. Craig. Gratitude for the falling rain. Lisa.
Joan, my friend Joan.
For Lisa's friend Joan. Anna.
The Freedom School, who put on an amazing party yesterday, and hardly anyone came.
For the Freedom School of Conoke Community, and gratitude for those from Parkway who were able to be there. Claire Nell.
I want to thank God for the generosity and the caring of my friends and family this week. With their gifts along with mine, I will be sending $2,500 to the orphanage in India to cover the full expenses for tuition, room and board for one nursing student for a year.
Wow.
Through donations, a nursing student will be provided for in India. Yes.
Healing for my friend Betsy.
For Betsy. Yes, Beth.
Gratitude and also care for all of our public school teachers, as this is the coming of the last week before winter break, and they need all of our prayers, and the teachers need all of our prayers and support, and so do all of the students, because this is an interruption in their daily lives.
For educators, students, and staff of the public schools. Yes, Michael.
3 families in our family and neighborhood who've all had deaths in the last week.
For those in Craig and Michael's circle who are grieving loss of loved ones. For Jim to be healed from infection in ear, throat, chest, and eyes. Yes, Lisa.
Gratitude for the banner. Thank you, Carl.
Gratitude for the banner that came up this week. Thank you, Carl, for your creation. There's so many unspoken prayers that you may have, others have. So we just hold a moment of stillness to be cognizant of that, but also to lift up that which has been shared. And then we will move to the prayer Jesus taught in the language and tradition of your choosing. We pray together. Father, Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sin as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. There are many ways to pass peace, respectful of the level of comfort that we all have. I invite you at this time to share the peace with one another.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Francie.
Huh?
Mary. Hey,
Hey,
Patty.
Beth. Hey, Peggy. How are you, Bill? Hey, Bill.
Hey.
Kaylin.
Hey, Peggy. Hey, Peggy Taylor.
I think Peggy Matthews is there somewhere.
She's
Yep.
there. I saw her.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, man.
Hey, Peggy.
Hey, Stephen.
Good to see you, Peggy. Nice to see all of you. Peace be
Hey,
with you
Gil.
all. Hey, Nan. Nan's there somewhere. And Deborah. Yeah.
Oh, she's muted.
Hey, Susan.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Hey.
Are there more? Are there more people? Yeah. Oh, Steve Boyd. Hey, yeah. Steve Boyd. Leslie and Tom, Dolores. How are you? All of you. All right, we're down.
Hey, Nan.
Yeah.
Peggy, you got your blue glasses today.
Oh, my goodness, she does.
Uh-huh.
Right, blue.
Can't hear you, Peggy. Lost my son.
Beloveds, it is Congregational Annual Meeting Sunday, so we integrate some of that work with worship as we move through our morning together. First, we want to just recognize and offer our appreciation to all of the ways so many of you serve in the life of this community of faith. So this is a bit of a prayer, and our response collectively is, we see you, we thank you. We see you, we thank you. Sacred energy, we notice those who keep our building and land available for others to use, to Grant in all of the ways he does stuff outside and inside. Marlon with all of his ways of repair. Amy and Janice and Vicky for taking out trash each week and keeping the kitchen clean. Kay and Donna for organizing the narthex. Those who vacuum and dust. Those who show up for cleanup days. We see you, we thank you. Holy One, we notice those involved with financial ministry for Jim, who's ending his term as our financial secretary. Joni, with everything she does as our treasurer. John and Larry for their efforts, particularly as of late on finance. Kay and Margaret, who coordinated our stewardship invitation effort this past year. We see you, we thank you. Blessed lover, we want to pay attention to those who are offering care and community building in our congregation. The Nurture Committee with Janice chairing and Donna and Kay organizing special events, and Sean and Janice and Amy as neighborhood nurture leaders, and Kate procuring things that we need, and Francie and Jeannie and Angela and Diane, as well as our care team of Lisa and Peggy and Sean and Ann and Sarah Lou and Bev. We see you, we thank you. We notice that it's possible to have worship only because of a lot of people. Matt for keeping live stream going. Lisa for coordinating the Sunday stewards. All those who come early, prepare communion, unlock, and then stick around to clean up after. For Carl, who brings the bread every week. For Adelaide and Terry and Karen and Sterling and Roseanne. For our greeters led by Judy. Our musicians and our singers, some of whom, Lee and Angela and Sterling and Craig and Michael and Sarah Lou and Grant and Susan and Al and Karen and Tim and Sean and Larry and Diane and John and Rebecca and others of you. We see you, we thank you. We notice our spiritual formation and small group leadership who gathers throughout the week. Ann and Tim on Sundays, Lisa and Judy and Diane and Grant and Carol and Shashi, and those of you who rotate those leadership roles. We see you, we thank you. We lift up all who are on the teams that are so active, especially our facilitators, Adelaide and Karen, Steve, Bill, Tim, Vicky, Anna, Sarah Lou, Ann, and contributions of Roseanne and Terry and Bill and Gail and Roseanne and Joni and Jim and Ann and China and Peggy and Andy and Josh and others. We see you, we thank you. Our personnel committee with Ann, who's going off, and Michael leaving the chair position, and Sean, and our pastor relations teams, Mary and Jim, Lisa, Bill, Aubrey, Karen, and Steve. We see you, we thank you. And our church council with Margaret ending her term as secretary, and Barb and Kay continuing as president and vice president, Joni and Jim, Nancy and Ken, Adelaide and Diane. We see you, we thank you. For worship and education committee, Sterling as chair, Judy as secretary, Tim after many, many years, finally going off for a while, Judy C, Beth, Roseanne, Adelaide, Shashi, and Carl. We see you, we thank you. For those who support leadership, who support Welcome, our nominating committee of Larry and Anna and Judy, and Anna as welcomer. Those who support Ann in our office, like Donna and Nan and Jim and Mary. Those who liaison with guest groups like Vicky and Judy C and Marlon and Grant and Joni. We see you, we thank you. And for our vision team, Bill and Andrea, Marlon and Michelle, Lisa and Steve. We see you, we thank you. And anybody's name who I didn't mention, we thank you. Anna, come on up.
The sacred reading today is from Isaiah 40, 1 through 11. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak compassionately to Jerusalem and proclaim to her that her compulsory service has ended, that her penalty has been paid, and that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice is crying out, "Clear the Lord's way in the desert. Make a level highway in the wilderness for our God. Every valley will be raised up, and every mountain and hill will be flattened. Uneven ground will become level, and rough terrain a valley plain. The Lord's glory will appear, and all humanity will see it together. The Lord's mouth has commanded it." A voice was saying, "Call out." And another said, "What should I call out?" All flesh is grass. All its loyalty is like the flowers of the field. The grass dries up and the flower withers when the Lord's breath blows on it. Surely the people are grass. The grass dries up, that flower withers, but our God's word will exist forever. Go up on a high mountain, messenger Zion. Raise your voice and shout, messenger Jerusalem. Raise it, don't be afraid. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. Here is the Lord God coming with strength, with a triumphant arm, bringing his reward with him and his payment before him. Like a shepherd, God will tend the flock. He will gather lambs in his arms and lift them onto his lap. He will gently guide the nursing ewes.
Our vision team has been working over these many months quite diligently in casting some recommendations with the help of an organization called Convergence, a UCC-related nonprofit out of Atlanta. The document we have before us that was in the announcements on Friday or out in hard copy in the narthex is available for you to reflect on. There's going to be now just a brief report of some of the highlights of that. And we start on Zoom with Bill. The others who are reporting, come on up and we'll pass this mic. So Bill, let us hear from you.
You need to unmute, Bill.
Bill, you'll have to unmute.
I have a vision. Now I have a voice. Greetings from our fellow Zoomers out here in inner space. All of the visions and recommendations that we'll share today are undergirded in the documents that Craig has referenced, are shared and have been shared with you. What we have is a continuing dynamic of change, both defining and engaging the best parts of who we are as a congregation. You have told us that roughly 94% of us are over the age of 50. 65% are over the age of 65. And we must be cautious with the way in which we describe ourselves because words matter. We are a maturing congregation, becoming more wise about our sense of urgency, as well as our respect for patience. Our consultants and congregational surveys all agree that while we're a congregation that's smart and faithful and joyful and experienced and passionate and proud and optimistic, we are overwhelmingly welcoming. And we need to embrace that as part of the strength that we enjoy, as life-giving and abundant with the resources we have in Elderling, as well as finding time and energy for justice and mercy. We are more than a welcoming spirit in our community. As we pursue the challenges and the opportunities facing us, we do so with welcome to both the new people and partners and relationships that we have as a church, but also the new ideas about our church and our community and world. So our first and most undergirding point is that we are a welcoming group of faith seekers.
Can you hear me? Okay, is that on? Great. So in addition to what Bill was saying about our welcoming, we are already partnering with the Shepherd Center to offer in our space Tai Chi, jewelry making, and a series of Saturday Soul of Aging retreats. We are working with the IEF group to develop a broad-based organization in which we'll participate and partner with other congregations and institutions in the city to bring changes that we feel like are needed, we and others feel like are needed. In addition, the second recommendation we're making is to maintain connections and collaborate with neighbors. We are, even though 29% of us live 10 miles or more from the building here, we're equipped to develop relational meetings with local institutions in the neighborhood and with our friends, including Forsyth Tech. We had 5 local neighbors in our climate cafe in July. We're working on a partnership with Wild Ones on a focus on native plants in our landscaping. Beyond hosting Freedom School and Shepherd Center activities at Piedmont Environmental Association and team movie nights, maybe there are other ways we can open our building to neighbors across our community to use this wonderful space for their efforts that are consistent with ours. We're a voting site in a highly active precinct. Are there ways that we can leverage that relationship to heal our democracy? And might we investigate partnership with Power Up, an organization that's helping educate neighbors on available resources through the Inflation Reduction Act, things like getting new appliances, et cetera.
The third is to become more visible to the community. Though we have a beautiful sign, relatively new, we can do more than that to make our presence known. When I'm around with the different folks I'm in and the various things I'm involved in, I always talk about Parkway, and they say, "Where is that?" And I say, "Well, it's up in the woods across from Forsyth Tech." "Oh, maybe I've noticed that." But we want to put some things out here that nobody will miss, you know, so that we truly are known, and we're known too for what it is we have to offer. That we have a wonderful campus that can be hiked in, that we have a facility that could be used. We have a wonderful community of folk that we would love to enjoy with many others. So that's one of our goals as well.
Another recommendation is to clarify priorities, streamline leadership. So the convergence consultants noticed how active all of us are in our community. So they really urged focus internally, focus energies and capacity. So going forward, the recommendation is to suggest highlighting one of our 4 main activities every 6 months. I'll go through those four activities or main priorities again. WISE team, or mental health, the climate justice team, the team working on healing democracy, and the group engaging in IAF broad-based organizing. So the goal would be to engage the congregation in the information activities of one of these every 6 months, so each is highlighted over a 2-year period. The consultants also recommended reducing the number of positions in leadership. However, the nominating team wants to remind us that there's only a certain number of positions that are reflected in our bylaws, and everybody who signed up on the teams that you noticed are doing that as an extra thing. So, but the idea is to just, instead of reduce the number of positions, the recommendation is to reduce the number of meetings, and I think all of us might be a little bit for that. Focus our leadership to address specific tasks between meetings and think about meeting less.
Recommendation 5 is to improve leadership development and communication. We've said that for years, but what they have suggested and what we'd like to do is create a church calendar that is available to all of us so that you can see what's going on, you can plan ahead and still be able to take part in activities that are meaningful to you at a later point. Also, each committee here at Parkway is asked to come up with priorities, and sometimes at the end of the year, those priorities have not been met. And we just move on and continue with new ones. The suggestion is that we keep those priorities until they are met, and then move on to a new priority. Also, another thing that Donna and I have been doing is meeting with other committees that we are working on a project with. For example, the Carols and Chile last weekend. We met with the Worship and Education group and exchanged our ideas, our concerns. They told us their concerns, and we were able to work together with them and to see more of that interaction so that other committees and other groups know what is going on and have some input on it.
So another thing that we've realized, we'll hear from the finance and treasurer in the congregational meeting, but we do understand that about, I think it's 25% of our income comes from people who are over 80. And that's reality, and bless you and keep you safe. But we realize that we may need to, in addition to attracting people here to worship with us and be full members of our congregation and contributing to our ministry plan, we may need to look for other sources of income streams. And we have a wonderful facility, the sanctuary, the fellowship hall, the kitchen, the new deck, and we have maybe potential for creating income from the use of the building in various kinds of ways. So one of the things that we can do is have special events here. We do have events from outside groups, like in the fellowship hall, Common Cause and Democracy and Electric Line. They held one recently, but also look for opportunities to charge people for using this facility. Is wonderful, and many organizations in town need it. We're thinking also of other ideas. That chili was wonderful. Maybe we have monthly community dinners in which we invite people and they pay for that. Wonderful chili that we bring. There are other wonderful things that we make. Something like senior daycare. That's a complex sort of thing, but we could explore that possibility with senior services. Weddings. People are always looking for weddings and venues, and so it's possible that we might connect with wedding planners in town and they could mention us as a potential venue. That means also that we'll need guest hosts, and we'll talk about that during the ministry plan, but either volunteer or paid guest hosts if we go in that direction. But anyway, so we're going to be looking into that, and we're going to ask you to make suggestions and also perhaps serve on a team that does the research to see what's possible for us.
And to that point about teams, next Sunday and the following Sunday, the 17th and the 24th, there will be newsprint up on the wall adjacent to us here on the other side there
for you to sign up for one of the 5 implementation teams that we're looking at this point. Signs and banners, website, social media, building and land use, including the Irving Street House, new income streams, and relational meetings with neighbors and neighbor organizations. So that will all be put up so you can see, and we're not asking will you, but which one will you sign up for?
Thank you, Vision Team and Church Council.
Again, will you please stand so we can worship God in body and mind and spirit and song.
Well, it's important to imagine it. The prophets of hope stationed all about, crying out the good news that it's time to go home. People scurrying about, making preparation for a processional of power through the desert. Hey, everybody, make room for the glory of God to lead the processional. Except it drips with tongue-in-cheek irony. Because this parade is not one of intimidating military might or economic extravagance. The image of the glory is the tender one picking up the lambs and cradling them in their arms and guiding mama's home. That is the image that elicits unbridled joy. The prophet says, speak tenderly. Isaiah says, speak right inside their hearts. It's a scene not unlike the one of Jesus of Nazareth, ironically riding into Jerusalem on a donkey to the loud and joyful hosannas. Strength in vulnerability, power in joyful humility. Make no bones about it, the context of this hopeful passage, this amazing turning in the book of Isaiah, is that generations of people have been exiled and suffered separation, and they're living with the image of the God of Israel as one who has departed from their presence and let the powers of the ancient Near East overcome them as a consequence for them turning away. And now it's a time for new relationship, a new season, a turning toward the lessons of searching and suffering are now meant to build restoration and renewal of a people. So what does that have to do with us? Well, to be pretty candid, very often the North American church has done what? Turned away. Away from the real spiritual sustenance. We've been competed with all of the powers as the church sometimes for a very different kind of glory than the authentic, vulnerable, truthful good news. It might be a little bit much to say, oh, we're in exile. But we are suffering practical consequence, aren't we? And always the prophets of hope call for a space and a preparation for the ironic coming of glory in vulnerability and truth, in tenderness and caregiving for all who are suffering, so that all of us might seek a spiritual home. So, Parkway, how might we all be prophets of hope for the community? How might we be speaking tenderly, making room for loving attention, inciting joyful exuberance about the possibilities of journeying home? Well, there are flashes of it. You have powerful ways of being present with and for one another, for care, for attention, for listening, friendship while needling in the narthex, Zoom rooms full of laughter and honest sharing, visits and phone calls and transportation and meals and cards. Without that, we have no authenticity to do anything else as a community of faith. And in the past year, you've created space for people to experience yoga and art making and Tai Chi and drumming and steps towards voting rights and action on climate change and a sense of purpose in aging and equipping responses to mental health crisis and making connections between what we eat and the environment and plants in our landscape and health of our ecosystem, and how we locally respond to policy and how we think about issues like Israel and Gaza, how we express gratitude. In the past year, you've created space for connection by passing out countless oak and river birch trees at the Earth Day Festival. And not just passing them out, but helping people connect with ritual and learning. Creating spaces for growing anti-racist consciousness through How to Be an Anti-Racist and My Grandmother's Hands and the White Fragility Group. Organizing a tour all around our community of specific sites that mean climate, hope, and resilience for us. Catalyzing conversations how multiple faith communities can come together to respond to the mental health crisis. You've launched a brand new spiritual community in the past year, Forest Edge Clerical, responding to the deep longing that so many have of connecting to earth and the seasons of the earth. Connecting Jesus with his deep love of his ecosystem. Spending time thinking about spirituality of table. Bonding at a retreat of how natural resources and mental health support go together. Supporting some 30 middle schoolers on their journey toward academic and emotional confidence. May the tenderness of God's glory grow from these initiatives. And where do we go from here rooted in that? Well, our visioning process, as you've heard, has clarified a great strength this year, and that is our relational energy, our ability to offer welcome. It might just be our superpower. And so one specific way we might be prophets of hope in the wider community is to not just show that warmth and tenderness for Parkway events, but things that happen in the building and on this land and outside of our community. We might not be the ones who continue to be the organizers of justice efforts, but we might be the support and the backup to make them happen. Snacks, directions, welcome, helping people get recharged and reconnected to hope so they can continue to do what they want to do. And many of the conversations around our ministry plan over these last weeks have been focusing on how do we, for the wider community, use what we have as well as the space to offer things like spiritual direction, eco-spirituality retreats, soul of aging offerings, retreats on grief and gratitude. And that's going to take a bunch of us to pull that off, not just one or two of us. Secondly, in this visioning process, as Bill said, we're celebrating who we are and what we're good at, rather than we could just lament and wring our hands. Where are the other people? We're so grateful for Ada and Theo and their families. And we also have to pay attention to other dimensions of our population. We can be excited about who we are as people who have some time, have some experience, and some of us who can pay attention to things besides building a professional identity. The specific way in this regard we might be prophets of hope is to be a gentle force of eldering. I say a gentle force of eldering. I've been studying this last year on building circles of trust with a woman from South Carolina who just came out with a book. Sally Hare wrote a book called The Elder Garden. And in it, Sally says, you know, cultures have always had a way of lifting up elders, but it has to be reclaimed in our society. We have not needed elders more at any time than we do now. And she says, elder is nothing about age. It's about committing with intention to a lifelong journey of wholeness and meaning making. And the path is a quite individual one, but it's impossible to travel alone. So we need spaces that offer support of connecting our material lives with our spiritual lives as we go back and think about those things that have happened in our past that are still positive resources to help us shape our identity right now and into the future. Parkway, are you ready to be a space where people can continue to plant and cultivate their elder garden? And then finally, thirdly, it's clear. Many of us have experienced religious trauma. And if not trauma, stultifying sense of irrelevance to life in the church. And for very good reasons, often we have to have a lot of our energy and our attention used to resist what we cannot accept in the Christian tradition. And then over time, you kind of realize, well, it's not enough to be spiritually fed by simply having a dimension of resistance. We have to figure out what we want to say yes to, what our souls are nourished by. So I think a way to be prophets of hope is for us to pick around inside the following of the story of Jesus of Nazareth and the tradition to see, is there anything there that is authentic and life-giving and can offer us practices so that we are sustained in being welcoming, in being those of tenderness, and making spaces for people to find their courage? I think so. Nourished by, of course, Torah and Hebrew prophets and dialogue with Eastern practice and indigenous and pagan awareness, and in conversation with other faith traditions, so that we can be grounded in what it is that we offer with a sense of clarity. So Molly Baskett, some of you are reading the Still Speaking Advent devotional. She wrote in a column this week, the mainline Protestant tradition has often had an ecstasy deficit. An ecstasy deficit. We're embarrassed by passion and elation. We're cautious about our convictions. And we even feel shame for being excited about a devotion to spirituality. Oh, what will people think? Well, there's a great deal for us to wrestle with in the tradition. No question. To be cautious about, to downright reject. And prophetic hope brings deep joy and mutual gladness and energy for healing. Dare we embrace an active, contemplative ecstasy of an intimacy with our awareness of the sacred energy in our midst. Dare we do that? So I believe, I hope, I pray that the vision team recommendations and the 2024 ministry plan and the work of our committees and teams and the work of the entire congregation is centered on these three things as we move forward. Prophetic hope and giving opportunities to folks who probably are never going to sit in these wooden pews. Give them opportunities to experience tenderness and care and a space for courage. Secondly, celebrating who we are and what we're good at, that we might be creators of elder gardens for people of all ages. And then thirdly, an honest exploration of our spiritual rootedness that gives us sustenance so that we can do what we are called to do. Parkway, how will we be prophets of hope in the year ahead? Amen. Call on Joni to come forward.
Good morning. Well, I don't know about you, but I was in awe as I listened to Craig about all that has transpired this year. It's amazing. Thank you. And so many have been blessed. A couple weeks ago, I think the Finance Committee had communicated where we were financially in the year. Unfortunately, all of that awesome stuff doesn't happen without the green stuff, right, to keep it going. And at that point, we were looking at a pretty significant deficit for this year. And we did accept a ministry plan that had a small deficit, so we knew that going forward. At this point, we're going to get into the numbers a little bit more at the end of the meeting, but right now I just wanted to give us an update. As of mail delivery yesterday, that's both email and U.S. Postal Service, we're looking right now at around an $18,000 deficit for this year, which is much better than what we were looking at several weeks ago. So we're grateful and thankful Just for some of you, sometimes people ask me, well, what happens to that deficit number? Well, it's just the church operating fund is just like your checkbook, right? So when we overspend and we don't have the funds that come in to take care of that, it just comes out of that balance, that reserve balance that's sitting there. So we certainly hope that maybe we can improve that number yet a little bit more. And thank you.
I was inspired by our litany this morning, and I'd like to suggest that we alter it just a little bit at this point and say, we see you, we thank you, we support you. That's going to be what you say. So, to Pastor Craig, we see you, we thank you, we support you. To our wonderful musician, Blaine, we see you, we thank you, we support you. To Matt, we see you, we thank you, we support you. Now, some people we don't see, and right this minute we don't see Michelle, but what we can say is, we benefit from what you do. We thank you, we support you. So for Michelle, we benefit from what you do. We thank you, we support you. And Tobe, who cleans our building, we benefit from what you do. We thank you, we support you. And to Anne, the amazing secretary, who does all the creativity and bulletins and some social media. We benefit from what you do. We thank you, we support you. And for all of the people who provide services such as lighting and heating and all of the things that make this work. We benefit from what you do. We thank you. We support you. So I invite you to go to the website and make a contribution there. We always have a plate at the back of the room. You can write a check, and we accept cash. So we love you and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Anna. That's essentially what I was just going to say. So I also lend my voice, especially in gratitude for my colleagues, for Blaine and Michelle and Anne, who are on staff here with me. Thank you. Just a couple of quick announcements. Stick around for the conversation directly following our sending forth, please. Take a look at the documents that have been distributed. Wednesday, 6:30, right here, we're having a Vespers of self-compassion. Whatever you're feeling in this season, we welcome it. Come and sit in stillness, sing some songs, offer a ritual to be true to who we are in these days. Next Sunday at 5 o'clock, we have our annual joint candlelight Christmas service with Wentz Memorial at Wentz. If you'd like to carpool, meet here in our church parking lot at 4:30 to carpool together. If you can't get here because it's dark, let us know and we will work on transportation so that you can participate. That's next Sunday at 5 at Wentz. We continue to support one of the United Church of Christ special offerings this month, the Christmas Fund, that supports church professionals who just are struggling or never made enough to have a pension. On December 24th, which is Christmas Eve, we will just have a morning worship service, and we're going to gather at 10:45. We've got lots of music, so come at 10:45 to receive all of the musical offerings as we roll into worship on the 24th. I still need about 3 readers for that service, scripture readers, so if you're interested in that, let me know. our closing song.
Please stand if you're able. If you use the hymnal, it will be 121.
Each and every one of you, we see you. We thank you. Continue to share your witness, grounded in a sense of love, mercy, and justice. I'll invite Barb forward to continue this worshipful work. You may be seated.
These are working because we're going to have Margaret and Kay available for questions. If you have a question or a comment, raise your hand. Margaret or Kay will come over to you. Now we have to get official, and I have to call the meeting to order. So it will be worshipful, we hope, but not. It will be an official annual meeting that we are mandated to have by our bylaws. The first thing on the agenda is to officially approve the slate of officers, which were in that list was in the narthex, so I'm hoping everybody has that. We also need somebody to monitor the chat. Joni can do that, and I'll do it while you're speaking, Joni. It feels a little awkward to propose the slate of officers since I'm also on the list. But if anybody has an objection, I don't think I'll mind too much. But we are going to have to vote on that. Do we have any concerns, questions about the list of officers for next year? And Judy, in the nominating committee, I think we should acknowledge them one more time. Judy and Larry and Anna did an awesome job calling people. We can pass those out, but one thing to note is that we're not officially voting on everybody that's on the list. Several of the groups or teams are not official positions, officers. We're only voting on the officers, and those are on the front page. For those who just got a copy, you can go ahead and look at that. Raise your hand if you have a question, a comment. I know you've seen this before, a prior couple weeks prior, so there were some corrections that were made based on comments then. So if no comments, we are ready to vote. I'll need a motion and a second.
My motion.
Thank you, Josh. Second from Vicky. Do I hear thirds? No. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. All right. I think that the slate of officers is approved as it is on the sheet here. Thank you. The next is the ministry plan, and Joni has those to hand out. Maybe we can get some help for Joni to hand those out. She is going to go through these numbers in detail. We call this a ministry plan because it does reflect our priorities. I'm thinking Joni will probably say something about that. Reflecting our priorities in how we spend the commitments and the green stuff, as Joni said. I'll hand it over to Joni and I'll monitor this.